Welcome to the Health Rising podcast, where we empower you along your health journey. I'm your host, Dr. Jordan Salmon, and together we'll explore the steps to greater health, hope, and happiness. Let's rise together. Welcome back to the Health Rising podcast. This is Dr. Salmon. I'm excited to be with you today. Talk about some important things. Just to catch you up to speed, we are going over the Health Rising pathway. So this is the process of trying to improve our health and taking things one step at a time in order to change our health, improve our lives, and become the healthiest version of ourselves that we want to be. So where have we come from? So initially we started with your desire, right? So you desire to change and you go through that process of discovery and figuring things out and finding those things that you feel like would benefit your health. And then you decide. You decide on what you can do in order to change, in order to improve your health. Where would you be most beneficial in working to change things, to improve? And you come through that process, you write things out, right? You do your intention implementation statement, and you've written it down, and you have decided, I'm working on this particular action. This is what I'm going to do. Well, you haven't done anything yet. And that's what we're talking about today. So now you do it. And that's where we're going to go today. So let's imagine a scenario. You're checking out at the grocery store, very common scenario. And as you're waiting in line, it's a long line, and you're looking to the side. They've got the magazines. And then next to the magazines, what do they have? They've got candy. Pretty much every aisle in the grocery store has candy. And so if you're used to grabbing candy, then what do you expect to do? You'll probably grab some candy. And that's just what you're going to do. Not that that's shaming you. That's just what you're used to doing. And that's what you've always done. So that's what we expect that you would do again in this scenario. And that's what the grocery store is hoping that you'll do in that scenario. And as well as the advertisers who have spent a lot of money to get their candy in that particular section of the grocery store. So let's say that this is where you are and you've decided that this is the exact scenario that you're wanting to try and change. What do you do? That's where we're headed. And we're going to talk about do and trying to change actions, right? Change what we would do in that scenario in order to do something different. Now, I really like thinking about this because as a physician, I see my patients at most, I would see them once a month, maybe twice a month if we're working on some weight loss things. But especially in a traditional healthcare setting where you've got a large number of patients, you're probably only seeing your patients once every few months. And so patients are the ones who are with themselves every day, 24/7. You are with yourself. And what you do every day, day in and out, is what ultimately determines who you become. And all of those actions that you perform on a daily basis, every morning, all day, those actions are what have led to a lot of our health challenges or contribute in some way. Now, obviously, if you go back, you'll recognize, and I recognize as well as a physician, that there are things that are not within your control. But there's still actions that you perform that are within your control, even when you face any one of those particular situations, health challenges that we all face. And those are things that you know, we don't control those things. So what do we control? Those are our thoughts, and those are what we do and how we react to those situations. And that's what we're trying to change. So let's talk about our breathing, for example. Most people right now, you're breathing, I'm breathing, but we're not thinking about that. That's just going on constantly all day. And you breathe and your lungs fill up and empty, and that's just an ongoing process all the time. And if you're running or exercising, then they're going to do it, you know, they're going to increase their capacity and they're going to bring in more air in order to give you the oxygen that your body needs in order to perform its functions during that exercise period of time. And again, you're not really thinking about it, it's just happening. But you can take control. So, right now, if you choose, you can take a nice deep breath in all the way, filling your lungs, and then let it all out. And you can do that. And you can take those deep breaths and you can override your natural body's system to breathe at a certain rate. And you can take control of that. Now, the same thing happens with your brain, that your brain is constantly thinking. Oftentimes, it is unconscious thinking. You're brushing your teeth, you're tying your shoes, you're cooking food, doing things that are uh, especially second nature things, things that you do day in and day out. And your body doesn't need to think about these. And I'm not suggesting that you think about everything. If you tried to think about every single action that you performed in a day, it would be an exhausting day and you'd be overwhelmed. But there are some actions that you unconsciously perform, like perhaps when you're in the grocery line at the store, if you're just used to grabbing the chocolate bar and throwing it on the conveyor belt and then purchasing it and eating it, that is just an action that is now unconscious. And those calories are contributing to your weight, if we're talking about weight. And there's other actions that you perform, such as your response to challenging situations and what you think naturally can contribute to your mood, your anxiousness. And so we're trying to circumvent, we're trying to change the path that we naturally proceed down in these scenarios in order to take greater control and be intentional with our health. And that is what we're talking about today. So, if we were going through the health rising process and we had, let's say that we were overweight, and as we desired to change this about our lives, we were curious and we started observing our behaviors and thinking more about what are the things that are contributing to our weight gain. And then we note that when we're at the grocery store, we always seem to grab a chocolate bar in the checkout line. And we decide, you know what? That is something I want to change. And we make that decision and we write it down and we say, when I'm in the grocery store and I'm in the checkout line, I'm going to do something else. Perhaps you decide that you're going to get on your phone and you're going to read an article or you're going to get on social media or something else. Or you're going to start talking with someone next to you so that you're not looking at the food. You're not looking at these candy that's in the checkout line. And there's a number of different hows, right? Of how you can do what? Decrease the amount of candy that you purchase and bring into your home. And that's your what? In order to decrease the amount of ultra processed foods that you consume, right? That's just one of those steps that you decide that that's where you're going to work. And there's lots of places where you can try and improve. And that's a great place to start or a great place to work. And especially if it's something that you find you do regularly, then maybe that's what's best for you. So that's what you've decided to do. Now comes the hard part, which is doing that. And so when you're in the line, you need to do that action that you've committed to, right? And you've committed yourself to doing that. No one else is forcing you to do this. You've decided on your own will that this is what you're going to do. You're going to take a new action in this small moment in order to have a victory and in order to improve your health, improve your weight, eat less ultra processed foods. And when you do it for the first time, celebrate it. That is something exciting. That is leading to improved health and leading to a lower weight. That is an important step in your health journey. And don't discount it. Don't tell yourself it's small. Sure, it's small, but it is a step. It is a movement in the right direction. And especially for you, if that was something you're challenged with or you struggle with, then that is something that you can celebrate and you can be excited about because you deserve that. And that is a hard thing to do when you're used to a certain way of living. Now, we commonly say knowledge is power, and I don't like that statement because I think applied knowledge is power. It is the combination of knowing what you want to do and then committing yourself to that action and doing it. And when you actually perform those activities, those actions, when you do what you desire to do, that is where the real power comes. Now, hopefully, your knowledge is in line with what will ultimately give you the desired result. So, if, for example, you say, hey, I really want to lose weight and I'm going to eat lots of donuts in order to get there, then you maybe need to learn a little bit more. But I think a lot of people, especially today, do know a lot of the things that we need to do, but getting ourselves to do it is really where the challenge comes. And I think we are in a country where there is a lot of advertising and a lot of money spent in order to get you to think certain things. And so I don't think you need to beat yourself up over these things, but I believe that you have that power within you to make these changes. And these small changes, as you start making them, can snowball into significant health improvements. This is the pathway that I followed to lose 65 pounds. And that's why I'm teaching it. That's why I'm taking so much time on these concepts, because living it is health. And I love teaching it to my patients, and I hope that this is helpful for you as we keep going forward. Let's talk about the best time to plant a fruit tree if you want fruit. Now, if you want the fruits of a tree, the best time plant that tree is 15 years ago, right? And then it's fully grown and it's producing fruit, and you're yielding the result of that fruit bearing tree, and you're getting the fruit and you're enjoying it, and that's great. But if you haven't planted it yet, when is the next best time to plant that tree? Well, that's right now. And start that clock, right? Get that going today. And that is what do is all about. If you want the results, the benefits of improved health, of making changes in your life that lead to improved health, then start now. Even if it's small, even if it's just trying to not buy that candy bar in the grocery line, then start it now. Start it today and get going and feel that power and recognize the result. Those fruits of this new way of living will be yours. Speaking of fruit, I love teaching about the law of the harvest. You reap what you sow. Tomorrow's fruits are today's labors. Our actions today matter because every action that we perform today that is different than what we did in the past and is in line with a future that we desire is an action that will yield a new fruit, better health. Whatever we're looking for has to come with changes. If certain ways of living have led us to the current predicaments that we're in, then changing our way of living will lead to changes in the future that are consistent with what those actions will produce. So knowing what those actions need to be is very helpful. But a lot of us know those actions already. We know a lot of those things that we need to be doing. So now let's do it and go through those processes that we talked about, and then now perform the action. Keeping in mind, of course, that some fruits, especially the best fruits, require time, require consistent effort, consistent watering, sunlight, taking care of it, and those fruits will come. but you don't see them in a day. So patience is required in our doing. Consistency is our goal. Our goal is not one giant effort, one huge day of doing it perfectly, but rather small, consistent efforts yield the best fruits. If you are listening to this, though, and you're thinking to yourself, no, I can't, that's not me, then you're holding yourself back. And I think anyone who's overcome significant challenges recognizes that there are many challenges to overcoming and to making changes and to improving our lives. But I would submit that the greatest challenge that we overcome in this process is our own mental limitations, our own holding ourselves back. Let me tell you a story about myself. And this was, I had lost, I don't know exactly where I was on my weight loss journey, but I had lost, I ended up losing 65 pounds through a lot of these things that I'm teaching. And I was exercising regularly and living pretty healthy. And I had a good friend of mine who was an extremely fit individual. He would ride his bike regularly. He was very slim, very athletic, and lived very healthy life and ate very well. And we were chatting one day about health and about food and about food choices. And he said, yeah, you and I, we make these really good health choices, and that's what makes us so fit. And I looked at him and thought to myself, us? What do you mean us? Like, what do you mean we? And I did not put myself within the same sphere as my friend because he, in my mind, was healthy, was very slim, was this athletic health, embodiment of health. And I recognized that even though I had lost significant weight and was on that journey, I still struggled with labeling myself and keeping myself as Fat Jordan, as the overweight individual that I thought that I was. And I had lost a lot of weight at that point. I had been exercising regularly, but I still struggled with this mental setback. And it was it was very enlightening for me at that moment because I think we all need those moments to recognize that we're holding ourselves back. We're labeling ourselves in certain ways that prevent us from changing. And those are things that we need to stop doing. We just need to recognize it and say, yeah, I do see myself that way, but I'm not that person. And I'm trying to become someone else. And maybe you don't fully believe that you are that other person, and that's okay. But let's not label ourselves as the unhealthy version of ourselves that we often see ourselves. Even if you're in that unhealthy sphere, instead, look at yourself as a human who is struggling with these health challenges and is working to try and change and improve your health. And as you do that and see yourself as not labeled by these health challenges, fat, anxious, depressed, but rather a human struggling with human experiences of overeating, of excess fat, dealing with anxious thoughts, dealing with a depressed mood. And then that gives you the ability to start changing that person and try and take actions to improve those particular health aspects. So, as we move forward, there will be fears, there will be doubts, there will be anxieties. We're doing something new. And those are some of the challenges that anyone faces in trying to accomplish something new, right? You'll have those thoughts. I can't do this. What if this doesn't work? This is going to be uncomfortable for me. I've never done this before. I can't do this. And having these thoughts is just a normal part of traversing down a new path. There's uncertainty there. And when we talk about bravery, a lot of movies get this wrong. They portray the character who's brave as fearless, as just confident in themselves and going forward with nothing to lose, like they were born to do this. And I think that that is a improper portrayal of how bravery really exists in the real world. Bravery is not the absence of fear, but pressing forward despite ongoing fear. So you'll have some of those thoughts. You'll have some of that discomfort. Do it anyway. That is what do is all about. You just do it. You have these desires. You've decided, okay, this is what I think I'm going to do in order to accomplish that vision, that desire that I have. And then you do it. You've had your implementation intention statement where you wrote it all out and you said exactly what you're going to be doing when those certain scenarios occurred, or in whatever situation it was that you're trying to accomplish something new. So for the individual who's trying not to eat candy bars, right, try and get less candy bars, in their diet, they would write it out and say, okay, I'm going to do this other thing. I'm going to talk to someone who's next to me, or I'm going to just not even look at those candy bars. And then you practice it and you do it. And again, don't discount how powerful these small little changes can be in your life. Let's talk about some candy bars, right? So a candy bar can be, around 250 calories. I mean, they can be more than that, they can be less than that, but that's kind of an average range of where a candy bar would be, and that's kind of a useful number for us because 250 calories, if you were to eat one less candy bar every day, so your regular maintenance caloric intake is set, but then you eat one less candy bar, so 250 calories less that day than what your body needs in order to maintain its current weight. Over the course of 2 weeks, that would be 3,500 calories. And that's an important number because 3,500 calories is the equivalent of 1 pound. So in 2 weeks, you would lose 1 pound. You might say that's not a lot of weight, but someone who's trying to lose weight, if you establish this habit of of not purchasing that candy bar and eating 250 calories less each day over the course of 1 year, you'd lose 26 pounds. And that is a significant amount of weight loss. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to hijack these unconscious decisions that we make that actually do the opposite of what we're trying to accomplish, right? So oftentimes we have these unconscious habits of mindlessly purchasing the candy bar and eating it. And you do that, and you do that every day. Over the course of a year, you're going to gain 26 pounds. So we're doing the exact same thing but in reverse. And we're being more intentional with our health choices. And we're recognizing the power of these small choices that can significantly impact our health. There's a significant increase in the awareness of how important our lifestyle choices are to improving our health and to preventing a lot of chronic diseases, or even just improving how well those chronic diseases are managed. Here's a few valuable numbers for us to consider. Heart disease, which is commonly one of the leaders for the cause of death in the United States. So of all the heart disease, strokes, and diabetes, of all of those deaths, half of them are linked to diet and inadequate consumption of foods or the underconsumption of vital foods for healthy living. we talk about cancers, 90 to 95% of cancers are rooted in environmental and lifestyle choices. 1/3 of those, about a third, are linked to tobacco, and over a third of them are linked to dietary choices. And then if we talk about dementia, so people over the age of 55 who are eating highly processed diet are 25% more likely to develop dementia. Those are not small numbers. So what you eat and how you live your life matters. That is where real health is found. It is about being present. So when I talk about these things, when I talk about the do is being aware of what is happening in our day, what we are doing with our time, and being intentional in our actions. We are trying to get these unconscious actions that are leading to our poor health, and be conscious, be intentional, be present. So what happened yesterday is in our past, and all we can do is learn from that. And tomorrow's actions have not happened, and we cannot perform them because they are tomorrow. All we have is today. The present is the gift that we have to change our lives. And have the vision of what you're trying to obtain, that future, those fruits that you're trying to receive in the future, and make your actions today in line with those future fruits. And when you do that, you can perform those actions with more excitement, with more motivation, and with a greater realization that those actions are the end result. Or, in other words, those actions will yield the end result. 100% chance. If you are saving $1 a day, then in 100 days, you will have $100. Guarantee it. And it's the same concept. When we are performing these actions that we know will lead to a desired result, and we do them today and tomorrow and every day, then we will obtain the end result of those actions. So let's make our actions healthy actions and make life good, make life healthy. And let's make today the healthiest day that we can live so that we are the healthiest that we can be in the future. Try and think about, for example, weight loss. Weight loss is so common, and I see so many people for it. And so that's why I talk a lot about it on the podcast here. But I think of weight loss as happening the instant that you perform the action that will lead to weight loss. So the instant you throw out that candy bar, or the instant that you take an intentional action to not purchase the candy bar, or many other actions that we can perform that will decrease the amount of calories that we get in our bodies, the moment you perform that action, you have obtained weight loss. And it's a matter of performing that same action again and again and again, and you will get the weight loss. It will come. Make sure that the actions that you're doing are in line with that desired result, and it will come. It will happen. It's happening right now, today. It's not going to, we don't need to think of it as happening way out in the future. If you know that the action that you're performing will indeed give you the desired fruits, then imagine those fruits happening today. It's almost like they're here, and you can do it with motivation and excitement, knowing that you are living a healthier life, that you are obtaining a healthier you. Believe in that possibility. Believe in a healthier you, and then engage in those actions today, right now. And as you do it, you will have it. Trust me, believe it. And it can be really hard to see at the beginning, especially because we're like, wow, I don't really know. But that's what do is all about. It's not going to be perfect, and your actions are not going to be ideal, right? Because you're used to a certain way of living, and that's just fine. But now we're going to try and live a little different that will yield a different result, that will give us a healthier version of ourselves. If you think about a car and the car is facing the wrong direction, how do you get the car facing the right direction? Nobody's going to go over there and pick up the car and try and rotate the car. No, you just get in the car and you start moving and you drive, right? It doesn't matter if you turn those wheels when a car is stopped, it's not going to turn around. It's not going to face a different direction. So, how do we change the direction of our health? We have to get moving. We have to start the engine and just go. And those actions that you perform may not be perfect, but the more that you start going, the more that you'll be able to adjust the wheel and start recognizing, okay, let's change these direction a little bit more, a little bit more. And that is where we're headed with our next topic. We will talk about how to correct, how to course correct, and how to make our direction more in line with what we really want, because we don't get it right on the first try. And that's just fine. It's about today was about doing it. Just get going. So let's do it. Go do something today that is in line with a healthier you, something that you want to be different. Figure out what actions need to happen in order to obtain that healthier you, and go do it today. I'm going to go do it too. So I'll sign off. And until next time, bye. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Health Rising podcast. I practice as a direct primary care physician in the Houston, Texas area. You can read about my blog and learn more about direct primary care at healthrisingdpc.com. If you have any questions or thoughts you'd like to share, feel free to message me on X or on Instagram at healthrisingdpc. Until next time, remember to choose health and be kind to yourself. This podcast serves solely for educational purposes. The information provided here is not intended to be medical advice. Listening to this podcast does not establish a doctor-patient relationship between the host, guests, or anyone associated with the podcast and the listener. For personalized medical advice tailored to your specific health concerns, please consult your own family physician. Any interactions with patients or experiences shared in this podcast have been altered to ensure confidentiality and comply with HIPAA regulations. Names, genders, diagnoses, and any potentially identifiable information have been modified to protect the privacy of individuals. By continuing to listen to the Health Rising podcast, you acknowledge and agree to these terms.